Hello, guys, and welcome back to a new episode of Rocket Lab Weekly. We are at the unbelievable number of 50 freaking episodes of 50 straight weeks of doing Rocket Lab Weekly. I'm here with practically my co-host, Matt Farley. And this is just us two. I would say that this is the normal Rocket Lab Weekly, just you and me talking about Rocket Lab.
Always a good day when that happens, man. Can't complain with
that. Exactly. And because we're at 52 weeks highs, I was going to wear my special party glasses and I freaking lost them. I can't find them, but I still have this, which is a shirt that I got from Curtis. And I'm really a sucker for these. I'm so happy that he sent me this stuff. I think you are also getting some stuff.
Yeah, I've thankfully received it. It's just downstairs. I forgot to bring it upstairs, so I need to do that at some point.
Next week, or on the 52-week episode. So how has your week been on the portfolio?
Really good. I need to update my tracker. Right now it's showing that I'm at all-time highs, but I know that's probably not the case. I mean, I've sold out of a few things and invested in a few things, so the tracker's a little bit out of date. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I'm still kind of at all-time highs. But the goal, I've been trying to get rid of some petty debt. But overall, the portfolio is doing rather well. Rocket Lab actually isn't too far off from Palantir being my number one position. They both have grown pretty expansively in terms of individual parts of the portfolio. So like Rocket Lab, I remember people always giving me crap. Like, I can't believe it's only 2% or 3% of your portfolio. Well, now if you were to consider just the stock positions in the portfolio, it's over 10% at that point. And the same thing with Palantir. So a lot of these positions have grown pretty expansively. And that's okay. You know, I'm not saying that I'm going to trim them or anything of the like. But I just think it's pretty funny. You know, that's kind of the goal, right? You get some of these decent portfolio weightings, something that you're comfortable with. And once they start taking off, then they end up becoming a pretty decent sized part of your portfolio. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to trim. Like, I know friends that have now their portfolio, when they bought Palantir at $5 or $6, or whatever it was, $6 or $7, and it's grown so expansively, they're up 300% in some of these cases. They're like, I need to trim. I'm like, you don't need to trim, right? Like, you can. I guess it all just depends on your investment strategies. But, you know, I know a lot of people that were starting to trim, hoping to buy back Rocket Lab below $5. And even you the other day were like, why are you selling puts at 550 or whatever it was, right? And I was like, the price is what the price is, right? You can't guarantee what the price will be tomorrow. And so sometimes when you get the opportunity, you just got to take it. And I'm curious what those contracts are actually up to. Let me see. I might have actually closed them out. No, I still got them. They're 70% profit.
That's super nice. That's super nice.
I might buy those back actually, because there's only. Did I already buy them back in my personal portfolio? Hold on. Yeah. Anyway, looks like I bought a lot of them back.
Somebody's asking, where is the next pullback? 650, and it's like, I don't know. We were just talking about how hard it is to know what the stock is going to do in the future. And for example, I thought we were going to get a much bigger pullback. You were selling put options, which is a bullish strategy. And I was quite surprised that you would do it at the level that you did it. And you ended up being correct. And I think the best way to play this is, know where the stock is overvalued and undervalued. And if we get a huge pullback into the fours, then you can add very heavily. And if we go up to a time that is or a price that you think is overvalued, you can trim a little bit. I am not a believer in trimming. I cannot tell you guys, because this week I had two of my stocks, which is basically 100% of my more than 100% of my portfolio, because I'm a little bit leveraged because of an accident. Okay, I'm very leveraged. I don't know. Depends on who you're asking. Matt thinks I'm very leveraged. I'm quite okay, I think.
I'm more risk averse, yeah.
But so I was tweeting about how well the stocks are doing, and I got so many comments of people who were saying they regret so much trimming. Like there was a guy who wrote like, I have a better price on Rocket Lab than you, and I got scared out of the stock, and now I like fucking regret it, you know? And I'm curious what you think about that. But my answer is, if we put in all this work and time to study about a stock, I mean, I think in Rocket Lab, like I put in, I mean, it could be thousands of hours now, you know, like to study this stock. And why would it make sense that it jumps 20% and then I sell out? Like I'm not in it for this 20% jump. I wanted to find a company that, you know, I can be invested in the next 20, 30 years and just comfortably own it. And yeah, that's why I'm here.
I think, you know, my thought on that is really understanding why you got invested in the stock in the first place. If you got in it to swing it and sell it at $7.50, that's your MO. You know, I can't fault you for that. You can make money doing that. But to me, I invested in the company thinking that it could get to a $50 billion market cap, right? And so it doesn't make sense for me to try to take profits at $7.50 or at $7 or even $6. If, you know, that might make me a penny or two. And like I said, you can't guarantee what the price is going to be tomorrow, but you know, you don't know if it's going to go back down to $4 or $5, right? It might, and you might get that opportunity. But to me, if that's the case, it would be an opportunity to add more, not necessarily buy back in. And so I think I've had that happen to me in the past, you know, 5-10 years ago now, where I sold something too early thinking it'll pull back. And one of two things happens. It either doesn't pull back and you end up, you know, missing the boat entirely. But more often than not, you end up finding a new shiny object to keep your eyes occupied and you forget about the company entirely. And so, you know, you might keep your eye off the ball. It might have got down to that point. Like Tesla, for example, was a prime example of this. And you might not get the opportunity, or you might not be looking at the opportunity at the right time to buy back in. You might have to do work for the next 2 months, and you might not necessarily have the time to look at the stock market. And next thing you know, it dips down to $4 and then rips back up to $7, and you had that opportunity to buy and you never did. So that's the problem with timing sometimes, is you have to be both right on when you sell and when you buy back in. And so it's tough in that respect. But to me, I always invested in, and that's why I haven't sold a share of Palantir, you know? So it's the same sort of situation. But like I said, I mean, it really just depends on what kind of investor you are or how you invest in the stock market.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Cool. I think we should start Rocket Lab Weekly with the usual news. There's some quite exciting things to talk about. Yeah, we take it one by one. So the first one is that there is a new launch scheduled for Tuesday, New Zealand time, which is probably going to happen, or not probably, like it's on, what do you call it? It's on Monday, our time. I'm probably I'm going to try to live stream this one. It's at midnight for me. Were you planning on live streaming this one? Maybe we can do it together.
Yeah. I wasn't really sure when it was going to be coming, if it was going to be Monday morning or Monday afternoon. So nice to see that it's Monday afternoon.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, 5 p.m. Mountain time. I think that's what Curtis means. I don't know which, that's Central US time, maybe, or yeah, I'm not an expert on US.
It's in between. Yeah, it's in between Pacific and Central.
Yeah. Cool. So this will be the third launch coming up this quarter, and it's probably the final launch this quarter. So we're not doing super hot on launches this quarter. And CFO Adam Spice spoke at a Morgan Stanley conference where he said that we are currently between 15 to 18 launches this year. So that means if I do a quick math, 4, 4, 3, so we're at 11. So between 4 to 6 or 7 more in Q4. So what are your thoughts about this? Is it something to be worried about, or it's the Rocket Lab business model, or
the fact that they're only getting 15 to 18, or
yeah?
You noted the same at the end of the 2Q earnings call, and so it's nice to see that since that point, I guess we're about a month or so on, that there hasn't been a drag further, into say only saying 14 to 17 or 13 to 16. So it's nice that for now they're still sticking with the 15. He did note though that there's definitely a hard stop at 18, right? And they would be happy to get 18, but it seems like that's going to be the upper end for sure. And there's definitely not a chance for a 19th or anything like that. So hopefully people aren't getting their hopes up. So I'm curious to see what really happens. I think the thing that I'm mostly looking forward to isn't necessarily if they get 15 or 18. The thing I'm mostly looking forward to is if they get the potential haste launch missions out before the end of the fourth quarter. And the reason being is because I feel like there's going to be a lot less of need for not turnaround time, but really just like lead time, I guess is the right term, to get those things off into space, or rather into the air, if you're talking about haste. The reason being is obviously if you're dealing with orbital sort of rockets, you're going to have a lot different of a payload criteria, specifications to meet, etc. But if you're going suborbital, I feel like the cadence is going to be a lot quicker. So to me, the thing I mostly care about, it might be because I'm more long-term focused, but it's really to see if we can get these haste clients happy. And it's really been almost 18 months since well, it hasn't been 18 months, but it's been over 12 months since we've seen the first haste launch. And it would be nice to start seeing that revenue stream start to ramp up.
Yeah. That's also one revenue stream that it's very hard to get information about. So it will be nice to, see it get going and like to be able to think with, okay, the cadence, the price, I don't think that those will be live streamed launches. So they're normally, we are going to see. So the next news is something that Matt would probably say, probably nothing. But we had Representative Robert Garcia and his congressional staff visit the Rocket Lab HQ. I think this was not announced for some weeks because it said here that they got to see the Rocket Lab built Escapade spacecraft before it went to Florida, touched a recovered first-stage Electron that journeyed to space and back, and visited our engine development center to see our cutting-edge 3D printed Archimedes engines. This guy used to be the mayor of Long Beach, so he knew Rocket Lab, or he knows Rocket Lab since many years back. And now he returned with his congressional staff, and it's probably nothing, right, Matt?
Always probably nothing. No, I think this continues to show the intertwining of Rocket Lab and in the defense side of the business, which I think is going to be a great revenue stream going forward.
Yeah, exactly. And hopefully maybe we get some cool government contracts soon. Yeah. Okay, so we go to the next news. Okay, I have a question. So this guy joins Rocket Lab at a very interesting position, but guess his age. Like, can you guys tell me in the comments what you think this guy's age is? I'm gonna go first. I thought that he was like 40 something. I want to see what you guessed, Matt.
You're making me feel like I need to go lower, but I'm gonna say 49.
Okay, good. Someone guessed 58. Curtis 55. Okay, so let's look at his resume and who he is. So Frank Klein, he's a German guy, joins Rocket Lab with more than 30 years of international manufacturing experience. So he already has 30 years of international manufacturing experience. So I don't know his age, but he went to university, let's say finished at 22, plus 30 years. So he's at least 52. So he's looking really freaking good for his age. That's all I can say. And this guy has been working. So at Rocket Lab, he will be leading the company's efforts to scale manufacturing of spacecraft, launch vehicles, and spacecraft components to meet growing customer demand for more than a $1 billion backlog orders. Prior to Rocket Lab, he served at Daimler AG, which is also known as the Mercedes-Benz Group, for 27 years, where he led various business divisions, including vehicle research, trucks, cars, and van manufacturing. While vice president of Mercedes-Benz operations, Mr. Klein managed global productions across 12 production sites, that's 12 factories, heading up logistics, industrial engineering, and the division's quality department, with responsibility for more than 14,000 employees globally. He also served as president of Magna Steyr AG, which I think is another German company, automotive industry's largest independent contract manufacturer with an annual turnover of more than $6 billion, where he led operations across 3 continents and 13,000 employees globally. Most recently, Mr. Klein served as the CEO of Rivian Automotive, where he helped to transform Rivian from a low-volume automotive startup to a high-volume premium electric vehicle manufacturer, while responsible for 9,000 employees. So when I read this resume, I can't help but think that we probably got diluted a lot by hiring him. He probably has a very big stock-based compensation package. And what do you think? Was he a good hire? Is he overqualified? Because Rocket Lab has a lot less employees, a lot less production sites. I don't believe we have 12 production sites, and we don't need like cars. You need to manufacture like thousands per week, and I'll be happy if we put out 1 Neutron a month or even a week. That's so it's a complete different production cadence also.
I think I don't want to be harsh here, but I think you're thinking too small. I think you are forgetting about plenty of sites around in Bethesda, Maryland, the sites in New Mexico, the sites in Long Beach. You're thinking about all these potential production lines that might not necessarily only be focusing on launch, but might be also producing satellites or solar panels or star trackers or reaction wheels. And each of those is going to have their own assembly line, and each of those needs to be optimized to the best of their ability. And so, I think that it's prudent to have this, especially as you continue to grow. Specifically now, when you look at the space systems business, it's growing rather rapidly. Like last year, I think the space systems business was lucky to get like a $20-30 million quarter. Now you're looking at space systems business pulling up $70 million quarters like it's nothing. So my thought process is going to be averaging $100 million quarters going into 2025. And so to me, I think it's prudent to have somebody like this with the experience. The thing that scares me a little bit is the Rivian side. Obviously you can't blame, all of the shortcomings potentially on Rivian on this individual. And I'd have to look at the tenure, right? When he joined Rivian versus when he exited and what impact he had on the business. But from my understanding, is Rivian's actually starting to get some vehicles out pretty well. So if he had a hand in that specifically to kind of turn around from the slow start that Rivian had to getting to them to where they are today, it all depends on what tenure he had at Rivian. It could be a really good opportunity. And I feel like, how do I say this? This might be slower pace than, say, the car industry, but it's a lot more detail oriented, right? The margin for error, I believe, is a lot less here for Rocket Lab and the space systems side of the business than it is particularly at the automotive side. So I think I was actually thinking about it when Peter showed that hull all filled with like the 9 or 10 electrons just waiting to be sent into orbit. I was like, I wonder how optimized that floor has been, right? You saw each line having their own particular kind of tools and everything of the like. And I was like, I wonder if that is as optimized as it needs to be. And then here, lo and behold, within the next couple of days, they announced this gentleman to help with respect to continuing to grow operations and things of the like. So I think anybody with that sort of mindset and help will really do well. Just like how Adam joining has done a phenomenal job of really bringing a whole wealth of knowledge to the financial side of the business, being able to bolt on great companies that has obviously excelled Rocket Lab over the past 4 to 5 years. I anticipate that this might be the next step up that they need, and it'll really allow Peter, I think, to focus specifically on what a CEO should focus on, which isn't necessarily execution of individual projects, but really focusing on how to steer the boat and really figure out where the company is going. What are the next tranches of business that really will drive Rocket Lab to be the true end-to-end space company that they really desire?
Yeah. Cool. So overall, do you give him a thumbs up or thumbs down, or?
Yeah, with all that, definitely big thumbs down. No, I'm just kidding. No, I kind of liked his from what I've seen, the tenure at Mercedes. They are pretty strict, right? German engineering is always generally pretty well received. I would want to look specifically more at the tenure as to when he joined Rivian versus when he exited, and see.
Yeah. Cool. Also, yeah, Curtis said that there is some rumor. We don't know how much meat there is. I don't know if you guys come across something, please share the link with me, so we can turn into gossip girls and see. I normally, like, how do you call it, when it comes to employees, I'm very lenient on doing interviews, and what I mean is, like, I want to see the guys in action and work with them, because I have seen, like, people having bad interviews and bad CVs and turn out really great, and I've seen, like, insanely good CVs turn out to be really bad. So I'm normally, like, never get too excited. I'm like, okay, let's see the guy in action. But just when I read this resume, I'm like, shit, we got diluted here. It's probably not easy to get such a guy to come and join your company. There was one question from the audience that I wanted to see if you can answer. So there was this capped call or whatever, like when they last raised, when Rocket Lab raised money in last December, and to not dilute the shares, they bought like call options somehow. That's what I understood. And the first point when they start diluting the shareholders, it starts kicking in at $8.8, I think, or 8.4, like a little bit over 8. And then we get to max dilution at, was it $12 or something like this? And somebody in the comments, of course, when I need it, I don't find it. No, here it is. So he's asking, with the convertible offering, is there more and more dilution if the share price goes higher and higher, right? Or is there a maximum of dilution? For me, it's not clear. So my point is that when we go higher, like, this dilution kicks in, and then, like, theoretically the shares are worth a little bit less. So it's like, it's a bit hard to theoretically to go higher, but I'm not sure how much people think with this, or analysts think with this. I'm curious what you think about this, Matt.
Yeah, let me just double check. If
I think in the Q4 or the Q1 earnings call, they had like a graph that was showing, like the dilution starts at 8 something and it max dilution, and they had like the share numbers that get issued, and it's also at certain dates, right? So, like, maybe we go to $10 and then we have a major pullback back down to 5. It doesn't mean that we got diluted just because we reached 10. Like, it needs to be at that price in 2027 or something like this.
Yeah, it's been a minute since I've looked. So Yeah, 2024, $355 million convertible note, raised concerns about shareholder dilution. The estimate placed the dilution between 12 and 14%. But I think you're right. I think that they took some of that money to basically buy, I forget what it was like 40 or so million dollars to buy some of the options that allowed them to basically minimize some of the dilution. So there's still some impact for sure, but yeah, I think that they went off market, and I think they went to a company to kind of offset it, if that makes sense.
They did a call credit spread on their own offering. It's super technical. Yeah, I don't know if this helped you. I hope it did. And yeah, if the share price goes much higher, we can definitely have a look back at this and see what was the exact details of this offering. Cool. We go back to the next news, which is the Neutron site is being built out. Peter Beck posted nothing like 680,000 liter of lox for breakfast. I don't know why he's having that for breakfast. LC3 launchpad is taking shape nicely. So when I was looking at this, I was like, I don't think that there's much more to the pad that is missing, because they're doing concreting. We know that they need LOX, methane. They need the methane tanks. Where are they up already? Maybe. And we know that the Neutron is going to have minimal launch infrastructure. So I think that the pad is, it's weird to say, but coming to a complete cycle soon. And then we only need the rocket.
Heard it here first.
So what did you think about this?
Good. Yeah, no complaints. It's nice to see forward progress. Yeah, it's cool to see the pictures on the ground.
Yeah. Cool. Somebody wrote, Rocket Lab based in Long Beach, California said Klein will receive an annual base salary of $400,000 and will be eligible for $100,000 sign-on bonus and an annual bonus of up to 70% of his base pay. I don't know where you get this data. I hope this is correct. And is the 70% like stock-based compensation based on milestones, you think?
A lot of companies, specifically public companies, actually provide a lot of bonus pay tied to specific corporate metrics, like the stock price going up or what have you. And a lot of that is just based off of the fact that these guys have a lot of influence into the actual price of the company itself. And so you'd actually be surprised. Many CEOs, you might hear about $20 million, $30 million compensation packages, but the majority of that is actually bonuses and stock. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I've seen that too. Like I heard that Tim Apple is making, I think it was like 100 million, and then his actual pay was like 500,000 or something like this, and then the rest was in stocks. Or
like Elon, for example. I think he might only be taking $1. I don't remember what it was, but like Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, a lot of those guys, and Warren Buffett, like a lot of those guys only take a fraction, and they majority of the time just get a lot of their bonus paid out in stock, and that's just determined by the board, right? So a lot of these guys, I mean, that's where the real money's made. They're not making money off of really having the salary. I mean, the salary itself is probably pretty minuscule comparatively. It's really, and it shows up pretty early on within at least the corporate structure. It's like for me, I'm eligible for a percentage bonus of whatever. But the next couple layers above me, it really starts to show up in terms of bonus pay and stock-based compensation pay if you meet the metrics. And a lot of that's just tied to the fact that you're managing entire teams or entire assets within an organization. So the success or failure is really more so on the hands of you and how effective you are as a leader or manager. So anyway.
Cool. All right, so now we go to the next one, which is the most exciting news, at least for me, this year. Adam Spice was at a Morgan Stanley conference, and he's so good at these conferences. And on my channel, there's a video where you can like watch the whole conference if you want to. Did you see this, Matt?
No, I didn't get the chance to listen to it. I was going to listen to it this morning, but then I kept getting phone calls from people, so unfortunately wasn't able to take it.
No problem. There is a summary here by Space Talks, which I think sums it up very good. And then I just have a few comments because, yeah, there was something that Adam Spice said there that made me instantly regret ever selling call options on my on my stocks. And I'm like, okay, I get out of these call options and then that's it. I only want to hold the stocks. So it looks like their average selling price for Electron is currently going up to $8.2 million, which is a very good news. They say HASTE is the fastest growing part of Electron's launch portfolio. I don't know if that's PR because how do you call it? You know, like if you sold 36 Electrons and then you started with one HASTE and then you become like, then you sell like 5 others, then it's like a 500% increase. And then, you know, to have a 500% increase on your legacy Electron, I don't know if you can call it that, you would have to sell like 150 launches. So it's kind of like obviously HASTE is the
well, and I'm just relating it back to when we started Electron, or when the company started Electron 2017. It took them almost a year to launch the second one, versus now what we're seeing is they've launched one HASTE and now they have 4 or 5 HASTEs kind of in the backlog to launch within the next 6 months or so. And so to me, you know, they went from 1 to 1 or 2 to now being where they have 4 separate clients for HASTE, and that will probably only continue to grow. And they're probably having further conversations that aren't necessarily finalized as of yet, right? They might be waiting to test some of those HASTE missions later this year, and before they do further sales or deals, right? So I definitely think HASTE is undervalued, and it's definitely something to watch over the next year.
Yeah. Then here's something very surprising to me, is he was talking about the gross profit of the Electron launches. And he was basically saying that the cadence is such an important part of having a very high gross profit that he thinks that once they start launching 2 a month, so that is 6 per quarter, which is what do you call it, like 24 to 30 launches per year, the gross profit is going to go up to 45%, and reusability would only add a 5% to the overall gross margin. And that's surprising to me that it adds so little, because you know, you would think that I guess it has to do with that this is a small launch vehicle, and you know, the prices are so pressed to begin with. Like I think Neutron, the reusability numbers should be much more than 5%. That's also why I guess they're pushing for a reusable. But so 2 things that were surprising: how little reusability counts for Electron, and number 2 is the 45% gross margin is very high, and it's a very good number. And they're basically almost, I mean, next year it looks like we're going to have we're going to be in that two launch a month cadence.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Then let me see if there's anything here. Yeah, recovery takes 40 kilogram. Okay, so then the very interesting thing is what he was talking about in this interview is that once they have Neutron up and running, they have the keys to space, and then basically they will be a completely different company. And he was basically straight out saying that they're trying to build the same business model as SpaceX. And he called out in this conference call that there is a huge discrepancy between the price of Rocket Lab and SpaceX, which is currently, I think, 100x ish difference. I think it's a bit less. But he said that the minute they have Neutron, the investors have to ask, like, what is it that SpaceX can do that Rocket Lab can't? And he really got me on that one, because it really becomes completely illogical to have 100x difference between the two companies, when really you ask the question, like, once they have Neutron, like, what can SpaceX do that Rocket Lab cannot? And I want to hear your thoughts about this statement.
The thing that I don't know enough about is, well, I think there's two pieces, right? There's the interplanetary piece for, human space travel. I think is probably a piece right now that Neutron could participate in, but I think that they're holding back for now until there's a little bit more of a market for it. But I don't know the capability of SpaceX's space systems business beyond Starlink, and I'm not devaluing Starlink by that statement. It's just, is Starlink a one-trick pony? Is SpaceX a one-trick pony when it comes to space systems and only being able to create Starlink, which is going to create massive value for them? So I'm not trying to downplay that. But I don't know if they have the interplanetary satellite capability of putting something to go to Venus, putting something to go to Mars, putting something to go to, and like, for example, and like I said, this is a lack of knowledge, right? So somebody please correct me in the chat. Like the Psyche mission that was contracted between NASA. I know that Rocket Lab provided the solar piece from their Solero subsidiary. Who made the actual satellite itself, right? The actual components and things of the like. Was that NASA? Was that them contracting out through somebody else? Was that SpaceX? Those are the things that I don't know right now. Right now, what I do know of is Rocket Lab has an extreme amount of capability when it comes to building specific types of satellites. And whether that's interplanetary, whether that's for potential experiments like with Varda, there's a lot of different sort of buses that they've kind of created to do specific things. So to me, it's all, I guess, dependent upon what matters more to you, right? Does Earth matter more to you in terms of being able to provide better communications, better geospatial data, etc.? Or does interplanetary mean more to you? Which then obviously SpaceX is the one that's really going a little bit more for that piece. Yeah. But I hear what you're saying, right? I also think that there's a large discrepancy between the heavy launch piece as well, which Rocket Lab hasn't necessarily touched as of yet. Maybe just because they don't see the potential value in it right now. They're really just trying to go after medium launch, where they see a lot more value in the short term.
Yeah, I also just want to react to, because there was somebody who tweeted this exact quote from Adam Spice when he said it, and I saw that like some SpaceX fans was like, yeah, SpaceX has what do you call it? Like, they're already monetizing Starlink. They have Starship. They have the Polaris mission. They have all these things. And it's true. And I'm not saying that the minute we have Neutron, we're going to be worth as much as SpaceX. But what I'm saying is, does it make sense to have 100x discrepancy between the two companies? Because yes, like somebody also wrote that, what do you call it? The cadence is 200 plus per year for the Falcon 9. Yes, but we are also increasing cadence. And in a few years, we're also going to get to 200 plus launch per year. And do you know what happens to the stock price if the difference between SpaceX and Rocket Lab just becomes a 10x? So we go from 100 to 10x, then the stock price 10x's. And I really, if you think about what Adam Spice said, I mean, I can't argue with him, because it's like, yes, you can argue about that SpaceX has the Polaris Dawn and they can fly humans, but the Neutron is human rateable. And if Rocket Lab is profitable or they're on the way to profitability, they can develop easily that capability. And I don't even think there's so much. I mean, the value of SpaceX 70-80% comes from Starlink, right? So it is going to be Rocket Lab's ability to put a constellation up and monetize it, and not Starship and the human capsule and all these things.
Yeah, I think it just depends on what your goals are, right? Right now, it's like, I think they're looking for that constant revenue stream from a constellation or through haste or through whatever to really get themselves to profitability. I think that's currently their biggest goal right now, is really come out with a competitor for the Falcon 9 and then get to profitability. What happens after that? Maybe they can have some toy projects, but I asked us specifically after the 2Q earnings call to Peter himself, and he said there's kind of 1.5 suppliers for the International Space Station. The market's kind of small. So why would you spend $300 million for something that is going to be rather small and not necessarily have a lot of growth potential going forward, versus spending $300 million and being able to get something like the Neutron or a Falcon 9 equivalent rocket that you can launch potentially up to 100 times per annum, right? Rather than the 2 or 3 times per annum that you might need to do for the International Space Station. So it just goes to show you, you have to put your money where the revenue streams are. And so that's the thought. I mean, it's just the same reason why they never started off with a medium launch vehicle, right? They thought that small launch was going to be the thing. And then I guess they realized that the cadence and the amount of satellites that people wanted to put into space was so great that you could really knock that out with 2 birds or a couple birds with 1 stone. And so that's when Peter kind of ate his hat, literally, and then decided to come out with a medium launch vehicle. Who's to say? I mean, if SpaceX proves that heavy launches can be affordable, sending people from Hong Kong to Riyadh and then Hong Kong to Dubai, and people are willing to pay for it, and it makes sense, maybe they come out with a larger vehicle that will be able to do the same, right? Where you can go from Long Beach to New Zealand or to Tokyo or wherever within 45-50 minutes on a medium to small to large launch vehicle. But I think right now Rocket Lab has kind of a 5-year delay compared to what I would say maybe even longer, I guess, to what SpaceX has. You have to think it took the Falcon 9 10 years to get to 100 launches total, and we're at 50 launches at 6 years. So hopefully by the time we get to 10 years, we could be at 120 to 150 launches for the Electron. But I think really a lot of focus is going to be taken off the Electron once you get that medium launch vehicle into orbit. And I think that what's going to be nice is it's kind of going to be old hat at this point for the Electron, and there can almost be like a little small revenue stream associated with that. But when you think about it from a how to move the company dial perspective, 1 launch is about the equivalent of 5 or 6, or actually 6 or 7 Electron launches. So when you think about it in that respect, 2 Neutron launches will be more than the revenue that all of launch will create within the year of 2024. So in that respect, you kind of think like, where should the focus really be going forward for the organization? And you really have to focus on where the money is, right? Obviously, if Neutron wasn't going to make money, I don't think Rocket Lab would be doing it. They have aspirations, but I think the smart thing is they have aspirations with efficiency and capital discipline in place, where I think a lot of companies lack the capital discipline piece, and they're focused on growth at all costs and also pounding their chests.
Yeah, I think the difference between SpaceX and Rocket Lab is like whatever idea SpaceX has, they just automatically have the money to try it out, right? And then if it fails, it's like, yeah, whatever, it failed. Okay, next idea. And Rocket Lab would die if they would have this approach, and they sort of have to like finish one, start making money on it before they go to the next one. And it's a slower approach, but they can't do. I mean, what do you call it? Peter Beck is the only non-billionaire or who's trying to run a space company here. So he has to do how he's doing it. Okay, and the most exciting other thing in this conference was that Adam Spice was actually starting to speak about their infrastructure plans and what it can be. And I did a video about this on my channel when I was like putting up the tinfoil hat, that it might be that actually they get hired to do a constellation. So they would they would have space infrastructure that is not, let's say, like Starlink, that they develop it and then it's up in space and then they go chase the customers. But maybe the army or some other branch of the government, or Apple wants to have a service of like on the new iPhone, we want to have satellite SOS connectivity to all of our devices. And he actually started saying this, that because they have the keys to space, they can manufacture satellites, they can they have the guidance and navigation, they have the satellite communication all over the planet. They can bring a lot of value to companies that would provide satellite service. So it sounded like AT&T could go to them and say that we want to provide satellite internet to our phones in the US, and then they go, no problem, it's 30 million a year, you pay us, and then we put it up there and then we provide it for you. Or the government, or Apple. And this version actually makes me feel like, okay, because if they do it this way, it's very, very easy to finance and zero risk. Because obviously if Apple would want them to put up a constellation, they would have to either pay upfront for the constellation, or it would be a subscription. But at that point, it would be very easy to finance, because as long as Rocket Lab delivers, everybody knows Apple is going to pay. And so I'm curious if you heard this before, or if this is the first time you hear it from this Morgan Stanley conference, then like, what do you think about this version of them building out their own constellation? You're muted, I think.
I don't know.
Okay. I mean, for me, the main advantages is that if they go this way, because I was really worried that they have money, and they were always communicating that we have money to put a Neutron on the pad. And then now they did a capital raise to acquire new companies. And I was always very, very worried that they're going to need significant amounts of money to build their own space infrastructure. And as we can see from ASTS and many other constellations, like these can be in the billions of dollars. And for them to raise capital for billions of dollars when the stock price is in the fours is not so sexy, So for me, it was like a huge relief that this option is on the table.
Heard it here first.
All right. Cool. So I think that was all the Rocket Lab news for this week. Now we have the segment about general space industry. The Blue Origin inaugural flight for the New Glenn is coming up. And it looks like they're going to try to land Blue Origin on the first try. Like, they think that there's a chance that they can do it. I saw Everyday Astronauts tour of the factories, and Jeff Bezos explaining the engineering that goes into these rockets. And I really changed my mind about Blue Origin. I think they're quite a serious competitor, way better than I thought they were before. And because they have been landing the New Shepards before, it's also not like the first time they are ever going to land the rocket. So I think that there is a chance that it might be successful. What do you think?
Yeah, I never thought Blue Origin was a complete garbage company. I think some people give them grief because they don't necessarily go too much into space itself, and they really just kind of travel up a little bit, just touch kind of the place where you can kind of call yourself an astronaut, and then kind of come right back down and land. So they don't really, what's the word I'm looking for? They don't really go into orbit, let's say, or at least from what I've seen, they haven't really done too much with orbital stuff. I could be completely wrong in that, though. So I really think New Glenn was going to be the thing that really sets them aside from where people just kind of assume they're a space tourism sort of company, and actually make them a company that's kind of serious in terms of actually getting things ready for the Artemis program that's going to be coming up, as well as going to Mars. So, yeah.
Cool. Okay, so next news is that this week we had the first private spacewalk by the Polaris Dawn mission, SpaceX Dragon capsule. As far as I understood, it went really well. What I've seen in the videos is that they opened up the hatch, and then they half went out of the capsule, and then they were testing the mobility of the clothes, and it looked quite funny. They were they looked like they were getting a stroke up there. I thought that they would come out and go around the spacecraft or something. Maybe that's still in the plans. I don't know. Okay, so what do you think about this news?
I was kind of underwhelmed, like you stated. I mean, I was expecting them to be out on tethers and flying around in space and swimming, but it makes sense. I mean, I think it's the first attempt at this, first time a private company has accomplished something like this. And so I think they were doing a lot of calibration, capturing a lot of data. I heard them kind of saying look left, look right, look up, look down. And I think they were really trying to just calibrate, get a lot of data before they go back a second time or a third or for the future, and really get, I guess, the real dangers, which is people out on tethers and things of the like. So I'm fairly confident that they will be going out in the future. But like you said, I was maybe when I heard spacewalk, I was thinking a little bit more.
Yeah, me too. Ooh, I would have nightmares about this tether. Can you imagine if the tether breaks, or you forget to clip it in or something, and then you just drift away from the Dragon capsule? That's it. Maybe SpaceX could reprogram something, and then the capsule could pick you up. But yeah, I would have nightmares on the tether. But yeah, I don't have the money, and I don't think I would have the courage to go on a space flight. How about you, Matt?
I don't think I could pass the exams.
But would you go if you?
I don't know. I have to think about it. I get anxiety going on airplanes a little bit, so I get over it once I'm on the plane. But it's more so getting there, making sure I don't miss the flight, stuff like that. But once I get on the plane, I'm generally okay. So I don't know.
Yeah. Gregory is asking, what impact does space debris have on spacewalks? My understanding is that if you get hit by space debris, you're dead on the spot. So it's a constant risk when you're out there. They were 700 kilometers high up from Earth, and I think that there is basically zero space debris. But anything that is traveling with you is traveling at 26,000 kilometers an hour or something like that. Which is something like 15,000 miles per hour if you're in the US system, which is 10 times the speed of a bullet. So even if you have a paint from a rocket that was chipped off and it hits you at that speed, it's it just goes straight through you. And the what do you call it? And what is it called? The spacesuit that you're wearing. So that is my understanding. I don't know if you know more.
I'd also anticipate that a lot of the area that they're doing the walking is very far outside of orbit. And so I think, I could be wrong on this piece, but you can kind of see a little bit more of the curvature of the Earth versus I think where a lot of the things that are traveling around the Earth are a little bit closer. And so with that, I think you're not necessarily, there is still debris, of course, right? I mean, there's always things traveling in space. It's space, for God's sakes. But I think the concentration of space junk is a lot closer to the Earth's orbit than where they were doing a lot of their tests. But I have a very rudimentary knowledge of any of this, so I could be completely wrong.
Yeah, the same here. I think Dave Huntsman, who is in the chat, I think maybe it's just his profile picture, but he seems to be like, from his comments, I understand he knows a lot more about engineering and space than us. Yeah. And by the way, this was a record that there was 19 people up in orbit, which just shows you how freaking early we are in the space age, because like 19 people is the highest ever and a record in space together. And to me, the number is insanely small. I mean, Elon wants to fly 100 humans per starship to Mars, and he wants to fly like hundreds of starships at the same time. So yeah, we are very, very early. All right, now the last news of the week is AST SpaceMobile has launched their satellites to be able to begin delivering service. The stock price crashed on the launch news, so welcome to the club, ASTS. But yesterday had a pretty good day and was up 13%. What do you think? Is this stock a buy? Is it something you have your eyes on? Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question?
Like, do you think that this stock is a buy? Do you have your eyes on this stock? And what do you think is going to happen with ASTS SpaceMobile now?
I dabbled along the thoughts of expanding my space holdings, and to be honest, it's not that I don't think that there's going to be other successful companies out there. I think that there's going to be plenty. My thought process is Rocket Lab is positioned to be a leader in a lot of that space already. It's going to have secure cash flows coming from it. It's already going to be a position where I'm going to get a 10x. So why dilute my concentration in Rocket Lab or dilute my diligence in Rocket Lab by investing in a second company that would distract me away, when I'm very confident that Rocket Lab will continue to outpace likely a lot of the other companies out there. So, I mean, I already had plenty of positions in the 2021 timeframe. Like I was in Momentous, I was in Virgin Galactic, I was in a few other positions, and I've trimmed those down to be specifically in Rocket Lab. So while ASTS, I think, is going to do a good job, I don't think that their current market cap reflects where they are in the company. And I think, there'll be a spot where they're continuing to grow from an actual revenue perspective. And the drop in the stock price will eventually meet that to be something that is a little bit more favorable at the current moment. For some reason, I would anticipate that the current stock price or market cap of ASTS is probably on the order of, I would say, 4 to 5 times what Rocket Lab is right now. And I think Rocket Lab is much further along in terms of its overall agenda and ability to generate revenue and returns for shareholders than ASTS. But I could be wrong in that, right? It could grow a little bit faster and than I'm giving credit for. But I also think that the Meta constellation, if I believe what Rocket Lab is saying, is going to be a huge piece of what they're deploying for the market. And who's to say that whatever Rocket Lab comes up with in terms of the ability to launch a constellation isn't going to eat away at what ASTS is doing. And it's not to say it's going to be directly verbatim, right? But there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. So I just want to congratulate everybody that invested in it. I just think that right now it wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing to potentially take some of your profits. But then again, it also depends on where you think the long-term trajectory of the stock is. I don't know enough about where they're going, what they're trying to do at ASTS to say it's worthwhile taking a profit right now. Like they could be trying to grow to a $200 billion a year organization. In that case, you know, the $15 billion, $20 billion market cap is too small.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think that the reason why ASTS stock price is so much ahead of Rocket Lab is because like Rocket Lab is building out the capability to create a space infrastructure, and the space infrastructure they're not giving us any data on, which means that the Wall Street analysts cannot put it into an Excel table and cannot give any value to it. So I think that Rocket Lab is being valued on purely being a space systems and rocket company, and they're not really giving guidance on their space systems. They're not making it easy for analysts, let's put it this way. Whereas ASTS, they have currently zero revenue, but they have a very clear outlined space infrastructure with very easily forecastable market, and this is what the analysts think. Like we have to see if those projections come true, but I think that that's what's giving them this insane price increase, is that it's very easy currently to forecast it. And I think buying at this level, I did a calculation that if the analyst projections are true, then in 2027 or something like this, maybe 2028, I did a video about it if you guys want to watch, the stock should be like $67, $64 or something like this. But the problem is that they have to execute perfectly, right? And I think that this moment, now that the satellites are up in space, is really where the rubber meets the road now. And we are going to see if analysts were correct in their projections, and if they miss in any way, or it takes them a few quarters more to scale up to the customers that they want, I think the stock price is going to collapse. And it's not my risk profile to own this stock. I'm very happy with Rocket Lab.
Yeah, I think it'll continue to do really well.
Cool. I think that was all the news for this week. I just wanted to show this graph so that we technically also look at where Rocket Lab stock price is. And you see how cheap I am. I don't pay for TradingView. Sorry, that's why the ads keep coming up. So we have had this channel since 2022. April, we have been oscillating between almost $8 down to $3.5, and we have been in this zone. So technically there should be, like, if we go past this level, we will go much higher to some other unknown level. There's also a chance that we stay, like, if this becomes a resistance, then we will get a pullback and stay below this price. Just for a fun fact, we did our first interview with Peter Beck and Adam Spice somewhere here. We did the second interview, I don't know, somewhere here. But I'm not saying, but just it seems to be like a good working strategy to speak with retail investors.
I'm not smart enough to do technical analysis. In fact, as Dave Huntsman would say, I'm not smart enough at all. So I generally just try to rely on what I think is a decent movement within inside the organization, and that they're achieving the right things that they say that they're going to set out to do. And I think the stock price will eventually follow. I just look at the fact that there's a $200 billion, $210 billion valued company out there that's doing really good things, and has done a tremendous job over the past 24 months and has been doing a good work since 2003. And then you have Rocket Lab that's a couple years behind it and is really trying to emulate a lot of that. And with that, I think there's going to be 4 or 5 key, stakeholders within this massive thing that we call the space race from an American side. And with that, I think it's going to be a good opportunity. To me, I wish I had an opportunity to buy a little bit more shares, but I had plenty of time, right? I mean, just look at how long it was down, and unfortunately, I was really, I guess, not necessarily concentrating on doubling or tripling down my entirety of my position. So, yeah, I'm excited wherever it goes, whether it comes back down, whether it goes up. It's going to be fun regardless.
Yeah. I mean, I would not be surprised if we get a pullback here, or we rest a little bit here, because I think the biggest catalyst now for the stock is a new government contract being announced. I think that Q3 is going to be a little bit disappointing when it comes to launch, and they did guide down, like in the revenue, like quarter on quarter, like compared to Q2. It's still a major increase compared to last year Q3. But unless, because that's been really the hard thing for me lately, is that it feels like the last 3 weeks, like the stock price is basically connected to ASTS, and wherever ASTS is going, like that's where also we're going. So if you came here and you thought that you would get help with the stock price, then you're in the wrong place. We don't know where the stock is going to go. And yeah, the best thing I could say is have your price, and when you go below, when the stock price, if there is a pullback and it goes below a level, then when you need to start OnlyFans to pay for the new stocks that you need to buy, and yeah, you should know when it's too high for you to stop adding to your position. But I don't know if you have any smart advice for the people who are looking at this.
No, I just like to buy stocks, man. I mean, I don't know. I use the long time horizon as a scapegoat. So if the stock price is down, I can be like, well, my time horizon is long, right?
Yeah.
So that's pretty much it. But no, I like to look for companies that are in the brink of being profitable, and I'm trying to find another opportunity after this one goes profitable. All my other companies have already kind of gotten there, right? Like SoFi, I was like, oh, let me get a little bit of SoFi, because that just went profitable. This is one that's just about to get to profitability within the next 24 months. So I'm looking out for the next tranche of potential companies that will kind of have a mind of their own. But I think the thing that'll be really telling is what the price does when we get a full Neutron launch. I think that'll be fun once we get some more haste under our belt. But I think it's really going to be driven by revenue growth over the long term, and net income. And it'll have a place of irrational exuberance, I think, between now and that place. But once you hit profitability, I anticipate the stock price will probably come down a little bit, because people then will be trying to value it based off of what the price to earnings is and things of the like. And so unless you keep that innovation alive of, hey, yeah, we're focusing on profitability, we had a little bit of profitability, but we're also still growing at a rapid pace, and we're coming up with new revenue streams and things that are new that will add on to kind of hide the fact that you're only generating, let's say, $100 million in cash or $200 million in cash on an annual basis. Then that's I wouldn't be surprised if you see a large come up in terms of price when we get Neutron on, and then a slight settling down. But like you said, that's hearsay, and I literally have no idea, right? It all just depends on what the market's feeling at the time.
Yeah. One last question before you go. So you were in Mexico with Tevis, as far as I understand. And last time you were saying how Tevis made you buy SoFi, and I was complaining that you didn't get him to buy Rocket Lab. And did you manage to break through this time around and make him buy Rocket Lab?
Hey, man, sometimes you can lead a horse to water many a times, and unfortunately You can't get him to drink, right? So unfortunately, no. And it's to his detriment, you know. I'm not saying that, you know, he's stupid or anything of the like. Sometimes you just have your stocks, and sometimes you could literally put it in front of plenty of people's faces. I put it in front of Stephen Fiorillo's face. I put it in front of Amit. I put it in front of many people's faces, and you know, they don't see the flashiness, I guess. They don't see the allure. They want to think that it's Rocket Mortgage or something. They don't want to believe that there's actually rockets going up into space, right? They don't want to take that chance. And I get it, right? It's a historically unprofitable space. This company, along with SpaceX, has done probably the best job that I've seen in getting it to go where they need to go. And at the end of the day, we'll see. I guarantee once it hits profitability, though, you're going to see a lot of these people join on.
Yeah. It's so funny. I was speaking to my uncle, and he said, like, Rocket Lab is a shit company. They're like, it's just hopes and dreams, you know? He said, tell me when they're profitable. And I'm like, yeah, but they will be like $30 when they're profitable. And he's like, yeah, but that's a good point to buy. I'm like, okay, I thought the good point to buy was $4, but fine, I'll let you know.
It's different risk tolerances for some people, right? I mean, there's going to be some skin on the bone, and some people just like to swing trade stocks, right? Companies that are slightly overvalued, they're trading at a price to earnings of 10, they route it to the price to earnings of 15, and they sell it, you know. And some people do a good business doing that. But a lot of people, the problem is they don't know what they don't know, right? Just like me, there's a lot of in the stock market that I don't know, and you know, I'm oblivious to things like day trading and being able to measure gamma squeezes and shit like that when it comes to options. And I don't know if I'll ever know those things because I don't really necessarily care. But you have to find what works well for you. I'm up 50% on the stock. I'm excited about it. It's my second largest individual stock holding, and I think it's going to outpace the first one by a large margin in the next 5 to 10 years. Not to say Palantir is a bad company, but they're a little bit overvalued right now. And also, I don't really foresee Palantir 5Xing from here in the next 5 to 10 years, right? It'll get there eventually, right? But I just don't see it going to be because it's an $80 billion stock now. I don't see it going to 400 billion within the next 5 years, right?
I mean, we 4x'd in 2 years or something like that. Cannot continue.
Yeah. So, So yeah, I mean, versus Rocket Lab, you're coming at a much lower cost basis. So in terms of market cap, I mean, right? So you can potentially get on board a little earlier.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys as always for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please make sure that you subscribe to both my channel and Matt's channel. Everything is in the description box below. I just want to give one last shout out to Fool's Gold, who I think became a millionaire. He was a millionaire already, but his Rocket Lab position is over 1 million now. He has an insane amount of shares. So shout out to him. And I think soon many of us will follow when the price goes higher.
Maybe he didn't want people to know that, but hopefully you wanted people to know.
He put it in the comments, so
okay. Hopefully. In the chat box over here, or
yeah.
Oh, okay. It's a different. I didn't see that. Okay, perfect. I was like, it's one thing if people are like DMing, but like another thing if like people. Yeah, you're good.
I wouldn't disclose that, but he wrote it here, so I thought it was public enough.
Cool. Yeah, you'll see it. Yeah, my bad.
Awesome, guys. See you guys next week. Ciao.
Yeah, cheers.